I'm Lucia, 29, and until 9 months ago, I thought I had the perfect marriage. James and I were expecting our first baby, and I couldn't have been more excited. Then came the day my water broke while I was home alone. Frantically, I called my husband, only to hear another woman moaning his name. In my most vulnerable moment, I discovered the ultimate betrayal. What I chose to do with that recording changed everything. Before I tell you my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments and hit that like and subscribe button because trust me, you'll want to hear how standing up for myself saved my life. I met James during my junior year of college at Northwestern. I was working on my marketing degree while he was finishing up finance with plans for a career in investment banking. We bumped into each other at the library during finals week when we both reached for the last available study room. Instead of arguing over it, we decided to share the space. By the end of that 6-hour study session, I knew there was something special between us. James was charming, ambitious, and came from a wealthy family in the suburbs of Chicago. His father ran a successful law firm, and his mother was a well-known interior designer. They had groomed him to follow a certain path in life, and he seemed eager to fulfill their expectations. I came from a more middle-class background with parents who worked hard to put me through college. My mom was an elementary school teacher, and my dad owned a small plumbing business. What started as study sessions quickly turned into coffee dates, then dinner dates, and before long we were inseparable. Our friend groups merged, and everyone commented on how perfect we were together. James proposed after just 1 year of dating. It happened during a weekend trip to Lake Michigan with a gorgeous sunset and a diamond ring that must have cost him 3 months' salary. I said yes without hesitation. Our wedding was everything I had dreamed about since I was a little girl. We married at the Botanical Gardens with 200 guests in attendance. My dress was a beautiful mermaid-style gown with delicate beadwork that caught the light as I walked down the aisle. James teared up when he saw me, and I remember thinking I was the luckiest woman in the world. The early years of our marriage were focused on building our careers. I landed a position at a prestigious marketing firm while James climbed the corporate ladder at an investment banking company. We worked long hours but always made time for each other. Date nights were sacred and we never went to bed angry. At least that's what I thought. After 3 years of marriage, we bought our first home in Lincoln Park, an upscale neighborhood with tree-lined streets and beautiful brownstones. The house needed some work, but James assured me we could afford the renovations. We spent weekends painting walls and shopping for furniture. Every corner of that house was filled with our dreams for the future. We had agreed to wait to have children until our careers were established. I wanted to reach a certain level at my company before taking maternity leave, and James wanted to ensure we were financially stable. When we finally decided to start trying for a baby, it felt like the perfect next step in our perfect life. Getting pregnant wasn't as easy as we expected. Month after month of negative pregnancy tests took a toll on my emotional health. James was supportive at first, scheduling doctor's appointments and researching fertility options. But after 6 months of trying, I could sense his impatience. The pressure to conceive became overwhelming, and our once passionate, intimate life felt mechanical and scheduled. When I finally saw those 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test, I broke down in tears of joy. I planned an elaborate reveal for James, buying tiny baby shoes and placing them on our dining table with the positive test. His reaction seemed genuinely excited. He picked me up and spun me around, promising to be the best father our child could ever have. As my pregnancy progressed, I noticed subtle changes in our relationship. James began working later hours and traveling more frequently for business. He claimed his company was expanding, requiring more of his attention. I believed him because I wanted to. I was focused on preparing for our baby, creating Pinterest boards of nursery ideas and researching the safest car seats. I decided to leave my demanding marketing position for a less stressful role as a consultant, working fewer hours from home. This gave me time to prepare for the baby while still maintaining my professional identity. James seemed relieved by this decision, saying it would be better for both me and the baby if I wasn't stressed. The baby shower his company threw for us was extravagant. His colleagues and their spouses showered us with expensive gifts and well wishes. James played the role of devoted husband and father-to-be, perfectly placing his hand on my growing belly and talking about names we were considering. Looking back, I can see the performance for what it was. Our social media presence portrayed us as the perfect expecting couple. Photos of James kissing my belly or assembling the crib garnered hundreds of likes and supportive comments. We were living the American dream, or so it seemed from the outside. As I entered my third trimester, the physical discomfort became increasingly difficult. Sleeping was nearly impossible with my enormous belly and my ankles swelled to twice their normal size. James became more distant, claiming he needed sleep to function at work. He moved to the guest bedroom, saying my constant bathroom trips were keeping him awake. My best friend Amanda gently raised concerns about James's behavior. She noticed how often he checked his phone during my baby shower and how he seemed distracted when we talked about the baby. I dismissed her worries, attributing his behavior to pre-baby nerves. Many of our friends had warned us that pregnancy could be a stressful time for couples. I trusted James completely. After all, we had built this life together and we were about to become a family. I never imagined he could betray me, especially not when I was carrying his child. The day everything changed started like any other Thursday in my 9th month of pregnancy. James kissed me goodbye at 7:30, dressed impeccably in his navy suit and red power tie. He mentioned an important client meeting that might run late and warned me not to wait up. I watched from our bedroom window as he backed his Audi out of the driveway, waving one last time before disappearing down the street. With only 10 days until my due date, I had entered full nesting mode. The nursery was nearly complete, painted a soft mint green with woodland creature decals on the walls. I spent the morning washing and folding tiny onesies and sleepers, marveling at how small they were. Every kick and movement from my baby girl filled me with indescribable joy. We had decided to name her Emma after my grandmother. Around 10 o'clock, my phone chimed with a text message. It was from a number I didn't recognize, but the preview showed the beginning of the message. "Can't wait to see you tonight after your meeting. I opened it curiously, wondering if someone had the wrong number. The full message read, "Can't wait to see you tonight after your meeting. I miss how you taste. Room 412 at the usual place." Before I could process what I was reading, another text came through. "Sorry, wrong number." The messages were quickly deleted. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of what I'd just seen. Was that meant for James? I sat on the edge of the bed, feeling the baby kick, as if she could sense my distress. No, I told myself there must be some explanation. James wouldn't do that to us, especially not now. I tried to focus on my nesting tasks, but the text lingered in my mind. I decided to finish organizing the hospital bag to distract myself. Around noon, I felt the first contraction. It wasn't particularly painful, just a tightening sensation across my abdomen. I'd been experiencing Braxton Hicks contractions for weeks, so I didn't think much of it. When another contraction came 20 minutes later, I started timing them out of an abundance of caution. They were irregular and mild, so I wasn't concerned yet. I tried calling James to update him, but got his voicemail. "Hey, I think I might be having some early labor signs, nothing serious yet, but I wanted to let you know. Call me when you're out of your meeting." I kept my voice calm and didn't mention the strange text. By 2 o'clock, the contractions were coming every 15 minutes. I called my doctor, who advised me to continue monitoring them and come in when they were 5 minutes apart, lasting 1 minute for at least an hour. I tried James again, but still no answer. I sent a text. "Contractions 15 minutes apart. Not heading to hospital yet, but wanted to keep you updated." I was sitting on my exercise ball trying to ease the discomfort in my back when it happened. A sudden gush of warm fluid soaked through my leggings and onto the floor beneath me. My water had broken a month earlier than expected. Panic set in as I realized I was home alone and things were progressing much faster than anticipated. With shaking hands, I called James again. This time, instead of going to voicemail, the call connected. But there was no greeting, no hello. What I heard instead sent ice through my veins. A woman's voice moaning James's name. The unmistakable sounds of intimacy filled my ear as I sat frozen amniotic fluid pooling around my feet. God, James, right there, the woman purred. The pregnant wife has no idea, does she? James's voice came next, slightly breathless. Don't worry about her. After the baby comes, I'll figure out how to split my time better. The woman laughed. You promised you'd leave after the baby is born. 6 more months, you said. I know, Natalie, James replied. Just be patient. She's so focused on the baby, she hasn't noticed anything. A strong contraction hit me, causing me to gasp audibly. I quickly muted the call, not wanting them to know I was listening. Tears streamed down my face as the physical pain mingled with the shattering of my heart. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was an ongoing affair with plans for the future, plans that involved my husband leaving me and our newborn daughter. Something shifted inside me in that moment. Through the fog of pain and betrayal, I found clarity. I needed to document this. Still listening to their oblivious conversation, I used another phone to record what I was hearing. The evidence of his betrayal captured forever. I ended the call without them realizing I had heard everything. Another contraction hit stronger than before. I was going into active labor, and my husband was with his mistress. I called Amanda, my voice breaking as I told her my water broke. I'll be right there, she said. What about James? He's busy, I managed to say. I'll explain later. Amanda arrived in 15 minutes, finding me curled on the bathroom floor, tears mixing with sweat as contractions came faster. When she helped me change clothes, she saw the devastation in my eyes. What happened? She asked, grabbing my hospital bag. Between contractions, I told her what I'd heard. Her face transformed from shock to fury. That son of a bitch, she hissed. I'm going to kill him. Not now, I gasped, as another contraction hit. Right now, I need to get to the hospital. Amanda helped me to her car, tossing towels on the seat in case of more fluid. As we drove, I tried James one more time, leaving a voicemail. My water broke. Going to Northwestern Memorial with Amanda. In case you care. I blocked his number after that, needing to focus solely on bringing my daughter safely into the world. The contractions intensified during the drive, coming every 5 minutes. Amanda ran red lights and took shortcuts, getting me to the emergency entrance in record time. The admission process was a blur of paperwork and nurses asking questions about my labor progression. When they asked about my husband, I simply said he was unreachable. Amanda called my parents, who lived 2 hours away. They immediately got in the car to join us. Meanwhile, my contractions grew more painful and my emotional state complicated everything. The nurse noticed my elevated heart rate and blood pressure. Are you feeling especially anxious? She asked kindly. I broke down, telling her I'd just discovered my husband's infidelity while my water was breaking. Her eyes softened with understanding. Focus on your baby right now, she advised. Everything else can wait. Your job is to bring this little one safely into the world. As I was wheeled into the labor and delivery unit, I tried to compartmentalize the betrayal. Emma needed me to be strong. The pain of labor gave me something concrete to focus on, a physical challenge to overcome while my heart was breaking. The next 8 hours were the most physically and emotionally challenging of my life. Each contraction brought not only physical pain but flashbacks of moments with James. Our wedding day. The positive pregnancy test. His hand on my belly, feeling Emma kick for the first time. All tainted now by the knowledge of his betrayal. The medical team grew concerned about my elevated stress levels. My blood pressure remained high, and Emma's heart rate showed occasional decelerations. The doctor suggested an epidural, not only for pain management, but to help me calm down for the baby's sake. Your emotional state affects the baby, she explained gently. I know you're going through something traumatic, but try to separate that from this moment. I agreed to the epidural, and the relief from physical pain helped me focus. Amanda never left my side, holding my hand and reminding me to breathe. My parents arrived around hour 6, bringing additional comfort and support. Mom took one look at my face and knew something beyond labor was wrong, but she didn't press for details. "We're here now, sweetheart," she said, stroking my hair. "Everything's going to be okay." After 8 hours of labor, it was time to push. The delivery room filled with medical staff, bright lights, and encouraging voices. I pushed with all my might, channeling my anger and hurt into each effort. After 45 minutes of pushing, Emma Rose Williams entered the world at 11:37 p.m., weighing 6 pounds, 4 ounces. When the nurse placed her on my chest, every other thought vanished. My daughter's scrunched face and tiny fingers captured my whole heart. She had dark hair like mine, and when she briefly opened her eyes, I saw they were the same shape as James's. Despite everything, this perfect little person existed. I had never known it was possible to feel such overwhelming love amid such devastating pain. While I was focused on Emma, my phone had been lighting up with messages and calls from James. He had finally checked his voicemail and discovered I was in labor. According to the timestamps, this was 3 hours after I had left the message. Amanda had been screening my calls, not telling me about his attempts to reach me until after Emma was born. "He's been calling nonstop for the last hour," she said, showing me the phone. "What do you want me to do?" I looked down at Emma sleeping peacefully in my arms. "Let him come," I said quietly. "He doesn't know that I know, and I want him to meet his daughter." James burst into the room 30 minutes later, disheveled and out of breath. He had a stuffed teddy bear in one hand and a bouquet of flowers in the other. The perfect picture of a concerned new father. "I'm so sorry," he said, rushing to my bedside. "My meeting ran late, and then my phone died. I came as soon as I got your message." I watched him lie so effortlessly to my face in front of my parents and best friend. The performance was flawless, but I could smell unfamiliar perfume on his collar. "It's okay," I replied, my voice neutral. "Meet your daughter." James looked down at Emma and genuine emotion crossed his face. "She's beautiful," he whispered, tears forming in his eyes. "She looks like you." I allowed him to hold her, watching as his hands, the same hands that had been touching another woman hours earlier, cradled our newborn daughter. The hospital staff cooed and took pictures of the happy family, unaware of the truth beneath the surface. My parents sensed the tension, but attributed it to the stress of the sudden birth. They took turns holding their first grandchild, giving James and me a moment alone. "I was so worried," he said, squeezing my hand. "When I heard your message, I panicked. I'm so proud of you." I looked into the eyes of the man I had loved for years and saw a stranger. "It's been a long day," I said, pulling my hand away. "I'm very tired." That night, James slept in the recliner chair beside my hospital bed, while I stared at the ceiling, tears silently streaming down my face. Emma slept in the clear bassinet between us, oblivious to the broken family she had been born into. I watched the rise and fall of her tiny chest and made a promise to her and to myself. No matter what happened next, I would protect her from pain. I would show her what strength looked like. The next morning, while James went to the cafeteria, Amanda and I had a whispered conversation about my options. "You have the recording," she reminded me, "and I think you should check his phone while he's gone." I was reluctant to invade his privacy, then laughed bitterly at my own thought. What privacy did he deserve after what he'd done? When he left his jacket on the chair to go to the bathroom, I quickly checked his phone. The same unknown number from yesterday had sent multiple messages. "Where did you go so suddenly? Is everything okay? Call me when you can." James returned from the bathroom looking anxious, immediately checking his phone and visibly relaxing when he saw I wasn't touching it. He was constantly texting someone, claiming it was work colleagues congratulating him on becoming a father. My doctor came by to check on Emma and me, explaining what to expect in the coming days. She demonstrated newborn care techniques to both of us, and James played the role of attentive new dad perfectly. When she asked about support at home, he jumped in before I could answer. "I've taken 2 weeks off work to help," he lied smoothly. "I want to be there for both my girls." I said nothing, already formulating a plan in my head. While James went to pull the car around for our discharge, I asked Amanda to contact a divorce attorney she knew through her work. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Don't you want to confront him first?" I looked down at Emma sleeping peacefully in my arms. I need to be strategic, not emotional. I need to protect myself and Emma legally before I let him know what I discovered. The ride home was silent, James attempting small talk while I responded with one-word answers. He attributed my mood to postpartum hormones and exhaustion, not suspecting for a moment that I knew his secret. My parents followed in their car, planning to stay for a week to help with the baby. That first night at home, James suggested he sleep in the guest room to let me rest without disturbance, claiming he didn't want his alarm for work to wake the baby and me. The real reason I suspected was to have privacy to communicate with Natalie. As I nursed Emma in the rocking chair of her nursery, I felt a strange calm settle over me. The initial shock had given way to determination. James had betrayed us at the moment we needed him most, but I would not let that define Emma's life or mine. I would gather evidence, consult professionals, and then I would act from a position of power, not vulnerability. The next week passed in a blur of newborn care and secret investigation. While James went back to work after just 3 days claiming an urgent project needed his attention, I began documenting everything. My parents stayed to help with Emma, giving me precious time to build my case. Each night, James would come home late, kiss Emma's forehead briefly, and retreat to the guest room with excuses about early meetings or letting me rest. During one of his showers, I quickly photographed his credit card statements, showing regular charges at an upscale hotel downtown and expensive restaurant bills for 2 on nights he claimed to be working late. Using his laptop while he was at work, I discovered a secret email account he hadn't properly logged out of. The emails between him and Natalie dated back to before my pregnancy, revealing their affair had been ongoing for over a year. They contained explicit photos, plans for meetups, and discussions about their future together after the baby was born. What hurt most were the messages where they discussed me mocking my excitement about the pregnancy and my trust in James. Natalie had even attended our baby shower as a colleague's +1, watching me open gifts while knowing she was sleeping with my husband. The photos of them together at office events showed casual touches and knowing looks I had completely missed. While Emma napped and my mom prepared dinner, I called the divorce attorney Amanda had recommended. Lisa Goldstein had a reputation for handling high-conflict divorces with discretion and fierce advocacy for her clients. Document everything, she advised during our phone consultation. Bank statements, credit card bills, text messages, emails. Illinois is a no-fault divorce state, but evidence of infidelity can impact financial settlements and potentially custody arrangements if you can prove his relationship interferes with his parenting. I explained about the recording I'd made when my water broke, and she confirmed it would be valuable evidence. She also advised me to secure my finances immediately. "Open your own bank account if you don't already have one," she said. "Transfer half of any joint savings. Change your direct deposit information for any income. Begin gathering important documents like birth certificates, social security cards, and property deeds." With my parents' help, I began implementing her advice. Dad drove me to open a new account at a different bank, and Mom watched Emma while I made copies of important documents. I quietly transferred half of our savings, leaving a detailed record of the transaction in case it was questioned later. Meanwhile, Amanda was helping me investigate Natalie. A quick social media search revealed she was a financial analyst at James's firm, hired about 18 months ago. Her Instagram showed subtle evidence of their relationship: travel photos from destinations that matched James's business trips, and even a picture of a bracelet identical to one I had found a receipt for in James's wallet. The most damning evidence came when I discovered their affair predated my pregnancy. This wasn't a case of a husband straying due to the stress of impending fatherhood or lack of intimacy during pregnancy. He had been unfaithful almost from the beginning, continuing even as we tried to conceive and throughout the pregnancy. James grew comfortable with my apparent obliviousness, becoming less careful about his excuses. He missed Emma's first pediatrician appointment, claiming a client emergency. When I called his office, His assistant revealed he had taken a personal day. That night he brought home an expensive baby outfit as a sorry I missed it gift, not realizing I knew he had spent the day with Natalie instead. My in-laws visited briefly to meet their granddaughter, making thinly veiled criticisms about my housekeeping and parenting choices while defending James's absence as providing for his family. When his mother suggested I wasn't trying hard enough to keep my husband interested during this difficult transition, I nearly revealed everything. Only Emma's presence in my arms kept me from losing my temper. 2 weeks after Emma's birth, I overheard James on the phone in our backyard planning a weekend getaway with Natalie while I was still healing from childbirth. He told her I was too busy with the baby to notice his absence and that he would claim another business trip. That night, after he went to sleep, I sat in Emma's nursery making my final preparations. I spoke with Lisa about the best strategic approach, ensuring I had copies of all evidence in multiple secure locations. I researched single mother resources and joined online support groups for women going through divorce with newborns. The recording from the day my water broke became the centerpiece of my plan. It was irrefutable evidence of not just the affair, but James's callous attitude toward his wife and newborn daughter. I decided that rather than confronting him emotionally, I would use the recording strategically to give myself the upper hand legally and practically. As I rocked Emma that night, watching her peaceful sleep, I felt stronger than I had in weeks. The initial devastation had transformed into a fierce determination to create a better life for both of us, with or without James. Mostly without. 3 weeks after Emma's birth, James announced he needed to attend a 3-day financial conference in Detroit. He seemed nervous as he told me, watching my reaction carefully. "That's fine," I said casually, bouncing Emma gently in my arms. "Actually, my mom mentioned she'd like to have us visit. This might be a good time since you'll be away." The relief on his face was almost comical. "That's perfect," he said, kissing my forehead. "I hate leaving you two, but this conference is mandatory for all senior analysts." I nodded understandingly, already aware that no such conference existed. In fact, according to my investigation, he and Natalie had booked a luxury suite at a downtown Chicago hotel just 20 minutes from our home. After James left for work, the morning of his supposed trip, I put my plan in motion. First, I called my parents to come get Emma, explaining that I needed a day to handle some important matters alone. They arrived quickly, concerned but supportive. "Are you sure you're okay, sweetheart?" Mom asked, noticing the determined look in my eyes. "I will be," I promised, kissing Emma goodbye. "Take good care of her today. I'll pick her up tonight." Once they left, I drove downtown and parked near the hotel James had booked. Sure enough, at 11 a.m., his Audi pulled into the valet area. Minutes later, a taxi arrived, and Natalie stepped out wearing a sundress and carrying an overnight bag. I used my telephoto lens to capture clear images of them embracing before entering the hotel together. Back home, I sat at my dining room table and finalized my evidence file. I created comprehensive packages for multiple recipients, each tailored to its audience. For James's boss and HR department, I compiled evidence of company resources used for the affair, including emails sent during work hours and falsified expense reports for client dinners that were actually dates. For James's parents, I prepared a more personal package, including the transcript of the call from when my water broke and photos of us from happier times juxtaposed with evidence of his betrayal while I was pregnant. For social media, I crafted a dignified but clear statement that would allow me to control the narrative without seeming vindictive. I wrote that I would be raising Emma as a single mother, due to circumstances beyond my control, without explicitly mentioning the affair. The most powerful component was a video message I recorded for James himself. I sat in our living room, Emma's nursery visible in the background, and spoke directly to the camera. "James, by the time you see this, you'll know that I've discovered your relationship with Natalie. What you don't know is that I've known since the day Emma was born. When my water broke and I called you in panic, you accidentally answered. Instead of your voice, I heard your mistress moaning your name. I heard you both discussing plans for after our baby was born. I recorded it all." I paused, letting that sink in. While you were making love to another woman, I was bringing your daughter into the world. I've spent these past weeks gathering evidence and making arrangements to leave this marriage with my dignity intact. I won't beg you to stay or ask for explanations. Your actions have told me everything I need to know about your character. I held up the folder containing copies of all my evidence. This contains everything: the hotel receipts, the emails, the text messages. Copies have been sent to appropriate parties, including your boss and your parents. I wanted you to understand that this isn't an emotional reaction. This is me taking control of a situation you created. At exactly 3 p.m., I executed the final phase of my plan. First, I sent the audio recording of James and Natalie to their work email addresses, copying his boss and HR director. I attached a brief professional note explaining that I had discovered their affair on the day I gave birth to their child. Next, I sent the package to James's parents via email, with a short note thanking them for their support over the years and expressing regret that things had ended this way. Finally, I sent James a text message. Take your time at your conference. Emma and I won't be home when you return. Check your email. Within minutes, my phone exploded with notifications. James called repeatedly, each call sent straight to voicemail. His text started with confusion, then panic, then anger, and finally pleading. What are you talking about? What did you send to my work email? You're making a huge mistake. Answer your phone. Please, Lucia, we need to talk about this. I can explain everything. Think about Emma, please. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I calmly packed essential items for Emma and myself. I had already secured a temporary apartment through a friend of Amanda's, paid 3 months in advance from our joint savings. James's father called, his voice shaking with emotion. Lucia, we just got your email. I don't know what to say except that we're shocked and heartbroken. What James has done is unforgivable. Please know that this doesn't change how we feel about you and Emma. An email from James's company HR department confirmed receipt of my information and informed me they would be conducting an immediate investigation, placing James on administrative leave pending the results. Most satisfying was the text from Natalie. I didn't know your water broke that day. He told me you were fine and the baby wasn't coming for weeks. I'm sorry. Her attempt at partial absolution fell flat. She had knowingly engaged in a relationship with a married man whose wife was pregnant. Her awareness of the timing didn't change her culpability. The security system alert on my phone showed James arriving home hours earlier than expected, panic evident on his face as he rushed to the front door. Finding it locked with the security chain engaged, he rang the doorbell repeatedly before slumping against the door. I watched this from Amanda's car parked down the street, feeling neither joy nor sorrow, just a quiet certainty that I was doing what needed to be done. Emma was safe with my parents, and I was finally taking control of my life after months of deception. As I drove to my parents' home to collect Emma, the weight I had been carrying began to lift. The confrontation I had been dreading was happening on my terms, with me in control. James would return to an empty house, his secrets exposed to everyone in his life, and the consequences of his actions unavoidable. That evening, settled in our temporary apartment with Emma sleeping peacefully in her portable crib, I received notification that legal separation papers had been delivered to our home. James had been served, and there was no going back. A week passed in the safety of my parents' home before I agreed to meet with James. He had been calling daily, his messages evolving from defensive anger to desperate pleading. After consulting with my attorney, I agreed to meet at a neutral coffee shop with Amanda present as a witness and support. When I arrived with Emma in her carrier, James was already there. He looked nothing like the polished financial analyst I had married. His usually immaculate hair was unkempt, dark circles shadowed his eyes, and he had clearly lost weight. For a fleeting moment, I felt a pang of sympathy, quickly replaced by the memory of his betrayal during my most vulnerable time. "Thank you for coming," he said, voice hoarse with emotion. He reached toward Emma, but I subtly shifted the carrier away. "I'm not here for reconciliation," I stated clearly. "I agreed to meet because we need to discuss practical matters regarding Emma's future." His expression crumbled. "Lucia, please, you have to let me explain. It wasn't what you think." I raised an eyebrow. I heard you, James. I heard everything that day. There's no explanation that can change what you did or when you did it. For the next 20 minutes, James alternated between minimizing the affair, blaming work stress, and begging for another chance. When those tactics failed, he broke down completely. Natalie left me. He admitted, tears streaming down his face. After you sent the recording, she said she couldn't be with someone who would do that to their wife during childbirth. The irony, right? My boss has put me on leave pending investigation. My parents won't even speak to me. I've lost everything. You chose to risk everything. I corrected him. Every time you lied to me, every time you went to her, you made a choice. James ran his hands through his hair in frustration. I love you and Emma. I made a terrible mistake, but I never stopped loving you. Love doesn't behave that way, I replied calmly. Love doesn't make plans to leave while your wife is giving birth to your child. He attempted to explain his behavior by revealing his own childhood trauma. His father, despite appearances, had been serially unfaithful to his mother. He had witnessed the pain it caused and promised himself he would never repeat the pattern. Yet here we are, I said. You didn't break the cycle, you perpetuated it. We discussed divorce terms with James, initially fighting against my conditions, before eventually recognizing his limited leverage. I wanted primary custody with supervised visitation until Emma was older. I wanted the house sold and proceeds split fairly, and I wanted financial support that reflected both his income and the circumstances of our separation. I'll do whatever it takes to be in Emma's life, he finally conceded, and yours if you'll ever forgive me. I may forgive you someday, James, I said honestly, but I will never trust you again, and I won't raise our daughter in a home built on broken trust. As I prepared to leave, James's parents texted asking to meet their granddaughter. Despite everything, I agreed to a brief visit at my parents' home. They arrived bearing gifts and profound apologies. We raised him better than this, his father said, holding Emma gently. We won't excuse what he did, and we want you to know we'll support whatever decision you make. Their acknowledgement of James's fault, rather than making excuses, was healing in a way I hadn't expected. We arranged for them to have regular grandparent visits regardless of my relationship with their son. Returning to our family home without James felt both liberating and painful. I reclaimed spaces that had been tainted by his betrayal, rearranged furniture, and created new energy in the house. The master bedroom was transformed into a peaceful haven for Emma and me, with all traces of James removed. James moved to a small apartment near his parents, beginning mandated therapy as part of our custody agreement. His company investigation resulted in a demotion, with Natalie requesting transfer to another department. The professional consequences of using company time and resources for their affair proved significant. As I established a new routine as a single mother, I found strength I never knew I possessed. Each pediatrician appointment I handled alone, each middle of the night feeding, each decision made independently built my confidence. The nurse at Emma's 1-month checkup noticed the change in me. "You're doing amazingly," she said as she weighed Emma. "I remember how shell-shocked you looked in the hospital. Now you're glowing." "I'm finding my way," I replied, watching my daughter's perfect face. "We both are." I joined a support group for new mothers, finding particular connection with 2 other single moms navigating similar challenges. Our weekly coffee meetups became a lifeline, a place to share both struggles and triumphs without judgment. With each passing day, the acute pain of betrayal began to dull. It didn't disappear, but it transformed into something manageable, a scar rather than an open wound. I was healing, and more importantly, I was creating a stable, loving environment for Emma, despite the chaos that had marked her arrival. 6 months after Emma's birth, our lives had found a new rhythm. I had returned to work part-time as a marketing consultant, finding a family-friendly employer who allowed me to bring Emma to the office 2 days a week. The other days, she attended a small in-home daycare run by a retired pediatric nurse. Emma was thriving, hitting milestones with enthusiasm. Her first smile, first laugh, and first time rolling over were all documented in a journal I kept for her. I wanted her to know someday that despite the circumstances of her birth, she had always been celebrated and cherished. James and I had established a functional co-parenting relationship, though it took considerable effort on both sides. His weekly supervised visits gradually extended as he demonstrated commitment to therapy and consistency with Emma. He never missed a visit or support payment, seeming determined to be a father Emma could rely on, even if he had failed as a husband. His ongoing therapy addressed the root causes of his infidelity, unpacking patterns learned from his father and his own deep-seated insecurities. While I appreciated his efforts toward personal growth, I maintained firm boundaries around our interactions. We communicated primarily through a co-parenting app that documented all exchanges, protecting both of us from misunderstandings. My own therapy journey helped me process the complex emotions of betrayal while navigating new motherhood. My therapist helped me see that forgiveness wasn't about excusing James's actions, but freeing myself from being defined by what he had done. Forgiveness is a process, not an event, she reminded me during one particularly difficult session after James had once again hinted at reconciliation. And it doesn't necessarily mean restoration of the relationship. I embraced this perspective, working toward forgiveness for my own peace, rather than to satisfy James's desire for absolution. Some days were harder than others, especially when I encountered happy families and was reminded of what might have been. But those moments became less frequent as I built a fulfilling life centered around Emma, my career, and new friendships. Amanda remained my strongest support, celebrating every small victory and providing reality checks when needed. When I expressed doubt about my decision during moments of loneliness, she gently reminded me of the recording and all that followed. "You didn't just leave a cheater," she said during one wine night after Emma was asleep. "You left someone who failed you when you needed him most. There's a difference." As Emma approached her 6-month birthday, I planned a small celebration with close friends and family, including James's parents. To my surprise, James asked if he could attend separately from the main gathering, promising to respect my space. "It's her first half birthday," he said. "I don't want to miss these moments." I agreed to a brief visit the morning of the celebration. When he arrived bearing an age-appropriate gift and a bouquet of my favorite flowers, I recognized it as yet another attempt to cross the boundaries I had established. "The flowers are unnecessary, James," I said, accepting only the gift for Emma. "I still love you, Lucia," he said, watching Emma play on her activity mat. "I've changed. I'm in therapy. I'm doing everything you asked. When will it be enough?" I looked at him directly, feeling neither anger nor affection, just clarity. "It's not about what's enough for me, James. It's about what's enough for Emma. She deserves parents who model healthy relationships. I can't trust you again, and without trust, there's no foundation." His continued attempts at reconciliation confirmed my decision to file for divorce, rather than remaining in legal separation limbo. On Emma's actual 6-month birthday, I signed the final divorce papers, officially ending our marriage. That evening, surrounded by friends who had become family, I celebrated both Emma's milestone and my own rebirth. The woman who had called her husband in panic as her water broke was gone, replaced by someone stronger and more self-aware. I began tentatively exploring the possibility of dating again, accepting a coffee invitation from another parent at Emma's daycare. Daniel was a widower with a son slightly older than Emma. Our first meeting was brief and focused mostly on parenting challenges, but it felt refreshingly honest after years of deception. Comparing this healthy attention to my marriage highlighted how much I had accepted behavior that should have raised red flags. Daniel asked questions and listened to the answers. He spoke about his late wife with respect and love. There was no checking phones under the table or mysterious work emergencies. For Emma's first birthday, I planned a small celebration at a local park. James attended, bringing his parents and a thoughtful gift. We managed civil interaction, focusing entirely on Emma's enjoyment of her first cake and the wrapping paper she found more interesting than the presents. After the party, James asked for a private word. I expected another reconciliation attempt, but instead he simply said, "You're an amazing mother, Lucia. I'm sorry I missed that first day, and every day since that I wasn't there for both of you the way I should have been." For the first time since discovering his betrayal, I felt the knot of anger in my chest loosen slightly. Thank you for saying that. As I continued rebuilding my life, I discovered new aspects of myself that had been submerged in my marriage. I took an art therapy class that helped process complex emotions through creative expression. The journal I had started for Emma evolved into a form of therapy for me, as well documenting my journey from betrayal to strength. During one therapy session, I realized I no longer defined myself by what had happened. I'm not just a woman who was betrayed. I told my therapist, I'm a mother, a professional, a friend, a daughter. What James did is part of my story, but it's not my whole story. This revelation led to a significant shift in my healing process. I stopped viewing myself as a victim and embraced my role as the architect of my new life. I purchased a smaller but more suitable home for Emma and me, decorating it with bright colors and personal touches that reflected our personalities. When the divorce was finalized, I celebrated with a dinner attended by my closest support circle. The conversation focused not on the end of my marriage, but on the beginning of this next chapter. As Amanda raised her glass in a toast, she captured perfectly what I was feeling. To Lucia, who turned betrayal into bravery and heartbreak into a new beginning. I looked around at the faces of those who had carried me through the darkest time of my life and felt immense gratitude. The path forward wasn't always clear, but I knew I wouldn't walk it alone. That night, after everyone had gone and Emma slept peacefully in her crib, I wrote the final entry in the journal I had started in the hospital. My dearest Emma, someday you may ask about the story of your birth. The truth is that you came into this world during a storm, but you became the calm at its center. You gave me the strength to demand more for both of us. You deserve to see your mother whole, not diminished by someone else's choices. I want you to grow up knowing that love should never require the sacrifice of your dignity or self-respect. The day my water broke was the day I discovered not just betrayal, but my own capacity for courage. You and I began our journey together that day, and it has been the most beautiful journey of my life. As I watched the sunset from our new home, I realized the profound truth that sometimes the things meant to break us become the catalyst for necessary change. By sending that audio recording, I had not just exposed a betrayal, I had freed myself from a life built on lies. In choosing myself, I had given Emma the gift of an authentic mother who modeled strength rather than acceptance of the unacceptable. Have you ever faced a betrayal that ultimately led to a positive change in your life? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of resilience and growth. And remember, sometimes the most painful endings create space for the most beautiful beginnings. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to always stand up for yourself, no matter how difficult the circumstances.